Well, welcome everyone to the April 28th Student Learning and Achievement Committee meeting. Joining us from the board are Dion Manley, Sue Horn, President Veronica Antonio, and myself, Kara Coates. I am calling the meeting to order. On the agenda tonight, we have for about 1 hour, I'm so excited that we're going to spend time with the Global Scholars Program. Many of us had the opportunity to attend the Global Scholars Diploma program on April 19th, and I was so impressed by the team action projects these students did. And I'm thrilled that you all get to hear it tonight. And then we'll end our meeting for about 30 minutes reviewing updates to the resolution on House Bills 322, 327, and 616 that we reviewed Tuesday night. So without further ado, Jill, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. So we are thrilled to have Marcy Alo, our advisor of our Global Scholars Program, and some of our Global Scholars students with us tonight. Global Scholars is a program that was new to us 4 years ago, and it's run through the Columbus Council on World Affairs. I think you'll hear a lot about this evening, but it aims to prepare our students to be responsible citizens and prepared to take action on global issues. And so some of the projects that they've been working on are great examples of that. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Marcy at this point to share a little bit about background on the program and then pass it off to the students.
Okay. So I stay seated here?
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever feels comfortable.
Easier to sit and look at this at the same time. All right, well, thank you everybody for giving us a chance to speak this evening. Again, my name is Marcy Alo, and I'm the advisor for the Global Scholars Program. And I have a few of the year 3 graduates with me tonight that completed the program, and I appreciate their parents being here tonight as well. Thank you guys for coming. I'm just going to give you a little information about the program if you're not familiar with it. Global Scholars is a credential that recognizes global competency above and beyond the required curriculum at Gahanna Lincoln High School. This is a program that students elect to be in. It is not part of the school day. They do all of the work for this outside of class on their own time. So it takes a considerable commitment from the students. Students work with other participating districts to investigate the world, recognize perspectives, communicate ideas, and take action. And the pictures there are actually our first 2 groups. So the one on the left was our very first group of year 1s 4 years ago. And the second group would be you guys, right? So that would be our first group. Yeah, because that would have been our first group of year 1s the following year. To remember what the pictures are. So that would be you guys originally. This comes from Columbus Council and the setup of the program. They have this set up as kind of like a pyramid setup here for the year 3. So the first year students do an increase of awareness in the 3 major areas, which are cultures, careers, and global issues. Year 2, they build on those skills through additional field trips and an e-course. And then in year 3, they do individual take action research projects. And you can see on the side there's some of the different things they're working towards. All right, video. Where do I click on here to mute myself?
I got you. I'm actually just gonna.
Oh, here we go. All right.
gonna-
So I
Okay. I'm gonna edit. All right.
I told you we would have the one more.
Except now we can't hear it, huh?
All right, let's see if we can get.
Sure. I didn't know she wanted it playing to be able to tell if it's working.
Playing out. I'm curious what this is gonna sound like.
Okay, cover your ears in case.
Why it matters to us here in Central Ohio. The mission of the Columbus Council on World Affairs is to increase global awareness in our community And the Columbus Council on World Affairs is at the forefront of leading and training around global fluency. We started the Global Scholars Diploma program with 2 high schools. And now, about 4 years later, there's 900 students from 20 different districts in our local community.
They are involved in different activities that expose them to different cultures, global careers, and the most pressing global issues around the world. At our Global Careers event, students come and learn about what skills are necessary and required to have a global career. And from there, students will sit down with career experts from organizations like Honda.
Gives them the opportunity to not only meet people from other places, but have different experiences. And they have to come out of their comfort zone. They have to come out of their bubble. It gives them more confidence and they feel better about themselves, better about the world, like they can make a difference.
It's a great program. It's a great opportunity to learn more.
I think it's slowly changing my perspective to be more understanding and more open than I was before.
What you think isn't always true. You know, don't judge a book by its cover.
No matter whether a student's going to university right after high school or whether they're going into the workforce, they will be working alongside people who think differently than they do and people who have had experiences that are different than theirs.
Global fluency is really about understanding traditions and cultures and history so that you can build trust and build a relationship and ultimately have a more effective partnership.
The more you know about your world, the better you can be at helping change the world and being proactive in your education and your careers and your country.
The students are the future, and giving them the opportunity to just open up and ask questions is why we do it, because that's where the real learning takes place.
Hopefully you could hear that somewhat. Sorry, this.
Short video. This is our particular one.
We are now muted here. We'll have to mute.
Okay.
Like turn the volume down. Still unmute.
Still stay unmuted. Stay, or you want me to go back to mute?
So for not in Zoom, but your actual computer, if that's the one, I would say turn it up, and then I'm gonna mute you in Zoom. Because we're now, so we're the ones gonna get up.
Just like that.
It can seem like a difficult task, especially in a school this large, but making
Try it again. Nope, it's not hearing me.
Making a difference can seem like a difficult task, especially in a school this large, but making a difference starts with one simple step: educating yourself. And that's exactly what the Global Scholars Program is all about.
Global Scholars is a 3-year program dedicated to helping you learn your place in a global society. There are field trips and other activities all over the course of all 3 years that culminate in one big project in year 3 that's dedicated to showing what you've learned about global cultures as well as teaching it to others.
Global Scholars students enter this program wanting to make a difference, wanting to find out how they can improve the world and how they can make their lives and people around them their lives better as well. We try to bring students together from lots of different backgrounds, lots of different schools, and we try to find ways to get them communicating and learning from each other.
Not only do Global Scholars students learn from each other, but they also help to educate and influence their own classmates and peers.
This is a very diverse school that has a lot of people from all walks of life and a lot of different cultures. So it is important for a program like Global Scholars to exist to help students understand those cultures.
Once you learn about those issues, you can in your school and teach other people about them.
Not only is the goal of Global Scholars to provide students with information that they can use to help others, but it also provides them with the knowledge they can use and implement in their own lives.
The meeting that we had, I learned a lot more about islands and like kind of global warming and like issues that are big. And like I learned a lot more details and learned how to advocate for them.
One of the coolest things that Global Scholars has enabled me to do is just learn about the lives of people from other cultures. We've done Zoom lectures with people who interact with other cultures and people who are from other cultures. And that has been one of the coolest things to do, is just hear someone talk about their day-to-day in a different culture.
There's so many students that are taking action on issues that they're passionate about in their local communities. And I think there's so much potential for us to learn from the youth, I mean, in terms of changing our future. So I'm excited to see how the program develops in Guyana.
While this program has already reached the lives of many Lincoln students, Global Scholars has big hopes for the future. This is Avery Hall for Lincoln Live.
Okay. All right, so am I correct now?
I do believe so.
It's a whole different setup than when you presented to us a couple of years ago, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry about
Well,
that.
with the videos in there,
I
because you got the
know.
online, I don't know what's going on.
I know.
All right, back to just normal. All right, so this just lets everyone know how the students go about earning the Global Scholars Diploma. So they need to complete all 3 years of the program. In year 1, under non-COVID times, because we haven't quite got back to this, we're very hopeful for the fall. There are 4 field trips, in-person field trips. Global Scholars was very good about providing Zoom opportunities these past 2 years to replicate those field trips as best as possible. But normally there are 4 field trips and students get an introduction to global cultures, careers, and issues. In year 2, again, there's 4 additional field trips. There's an online e-course where students dive deeper into global cultures, global careers, and global issues. And then in year 3, students individually complete a year-long Take Action project. They do research and they take action on a global issue that they're passionate about, and then they present their research, their action, and the impact at the end of the year project fair, which took place a couple weeks ago. And then these are just a few pictures from pre-COVID. We were at one of the field trips, just to kind of show the students and some of the different speakers that they had there. And this was our trip to Honda, again, pre-COVID. So these pictures are from just a couple years ago, when students got to go see the facility there and their global interactions. And this is our first graduating class last year. This was our first group of year 3 students to complete the program. And you can see their names and their different topics for their action research projects up there. And this is our current group. And when they were presenting their projects at Otterbein University just recently, earlier this month, I should snap a quick picture of each of them with their project boards. And again, several of them are here tonight with their boards to present to you. And this is the full group minus one. I had one not in the picture. I think that just Jacob snuck out on us. But this is 9 of the 10 that graduated this year with their topics. Somebody's busy. And that's my part of the program. Did everyone have any questions for me before I turn things over to the students? Marcy, I know you talked about this kind of being an in addition for them. Can you talk about the type of support that you give them, you know, throughout their day or throughout the year? Absolutely. So I oversee all 3 years, year 1, 2, and 3. So obviously there's different things going on at each level. So year 1s, I don't get quite as much support. I don't see them quite as often, but I do organize the field trips for them. And I do try to meet with them in person, at least at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year, any other times as needed. We do a lot through email. I contact them through email, and I use Remind just because I don't have them in the classroom with me every day.
to make contact. The year twos, similar, but I do provide quite a bit more support to them because they're completing an e-course on their own. So I do more check-ins with them. They reach out to me if they have questions or issues with the e-course materials. And then same thing, we go on 4 field trips, so I organize that, and then I try to get them together at least at the beginning and the end of the year in person, in addition to the field trips. And then year 3 is obviously the most contact because the students have the most involved projects. So myself and then Columbus Council provides an additional advisor. So it's myself, the Columbus Council advisor, who this year was Diane Flick. Last year we had someone different, but this year is Diane Flick. And each student, we did everything through Google Meet this year to make it easy, so she didn't have to drive out to campus constantly. And the students here, some of them, depending on their schedules, they could just pop in quickly for meetings. But we met at least once a month with each student so that we could touch base and just see if they had questions, make sure they were on target with timelines and due dates and just, you know, anything that they needed along the way. And then if they needed additional questions and wanted an additional meeting, of course we could do that. Or if we urged them to have an additional meeting, sometimes we did that so that we could just make sure that they were meeting all their goals along the way. And then at the end, I was putting together your project boards. We did a little workshop in person just to make sure they knew exactly what they needed to do for that final presentation. And we went through that together, and you know, a couple of them kind of came in and had me look things over for them and give them some feedback or help them with different things. So I just try to make myself available to them for whatever they need throughout their little journey through the program.
Yeah. How do they learn about the program? Do
Say
they learn
that,
about
sorry.
that? How do they learn about the program? Do they learn as freshmen and they can get into the program as sophomores?
I do my best to market to the middle schools and to our freshmen because it is a 3-year program. So I'm looking to recruit current 8th and 9th graders to be in the program. So Lincoln Live was fantastic, and I kind of asked them if they could please make me a little video, and it came out great. So I had a few of my students, current students, again, I used my little reminder in my email, and I said, hey, would anybody like to talk to Lincoln Live? And a couple of them did, and they were awesome. Like, I did not script what they said. That was amazing. I was so impressed with what they said, and the video came out really nice. So I sent that down to the middle schools this year because they all have live announcements to kind of help just give the students an idea of what the program is. Because of course it's difficult as an 8th grader to sign up for a program like this when you even haven't even been in the high school yet. I give them a lot of credit. I would find that very intimidating, but I have a lot of 8th graders that have signed up for next year, which is great. And then of course this ran on Lincoln Live at the high school. And then I've been trying to get things out on social media. I made a flyer that went out through a peach jar at the high school and at the middle schools, just to try and get the word out as best I can for signups.
Is there any limit for how many? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it's also included in the program of studies.
True, yeah, it is in there too. Yeah, and students get a half a credit for it once they complete year 3. So they can get some credit. So that's another little piece that's kind of nice for the students. Great. Okay, then what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to ask if there's a limit to how many students can be in it, or is it really open-ended?
The way it works is they kind of chunk us in the amounts that we can take at a time. So I try to limit each year to 30 students, just so that we are staying within the number that we, kind of agreed to with Columbus Council.
Good. So that's 90 at once for you.
Could be, but unfortunately, by the time they get to year 3, I tend to have some that drop off. So that's why I start out higher, and then I just know through attrition, I'm gonna lose a few along the way, unfortunately.
We max out at 75. That's where
Okay.
we have that contract.
Okay, that makes sense. So I noticed when we were at the fair that there are a lot of other area schools who participate in Global Scholars. Do the students ever get an opportunity to collaborate with students from other schools? Do they do the field trips together?
Pre-COVID, yes, they did, and that was nice because unfortunately, you guys, you just are year 1, you guys do a little bit, but like my current year 2s haven't really done anything. We did a modified field trip here at Clark Hall. If you noticed the pictures, there were from Clark Hall in the video, where Columbus Council came in and led like a modified field trip for our students here this year, just so that they could have something. And the students loved it. But yeah, they're definitely were missing that piece of interacting with the other students at the other schools.
So as we move back out of the pandemic, we'll maybe, so
I guess before, and I know.
Hopefully in the fall, we should be back.
I don't remember what year Indiana began participating in the program.
This is the
This
fourth
is-
year.
Okay, so we didn't have that. And is the program itself newer or has it been around?
I don't remember when they started.
I think it's about 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah,
the
it's a
program
couple years
itself.
older than,
Okay.
we were not one of the first.
We were
When
not
we
one
went
of
to
the first.
study, we got to
It
see
was the 2016.
the first year of graduating kids, so I think it's about a 7-year.
Yeah.
So the
Sounds about right.
intent though, when we get back to less mitigation strategies and restrictions is that the students will sometimes take field trips with
Yes.
kids from other
Yes,
schools.
and the nice thing, they
That's
usually
great.
try to mix us with different schools each time. So usually there's 4 field trips. So we may be with Pickerington one time, or we may be with Green Valley, like they try to
That's
mix it
great.
up so they do get to meet other students.
Do you
And
know
they
the
enjoy
field
that.
trips?
Sorry about that.
Do you know the field trips for next year or too early?
They have not announced anything. The plan of right now is that they're planning to reinstate the field trips. Part of the piece right now is they work with so many business partners, and a lot of the businesses just aren't open.
Yeah.
Schools are open, businesses are remote, so.
Marcy, will you share what some of the field trips have been though?
Sure,
in the past?
absolutely. I'm trying to think. Some of them are because they overlap, but we've
Yeah.
gone to Honda so that they get a chance to see the global, reach that Honda has. They talk to the different employees there and talk about how they develop products for people in different countries in different ways, and how they meet their demand. And like students, for example, learned that Honda makes a lot of motorcycles because that's like their biggest seller. We don't think of that here in the United States, but worldwide they sell motorcycles. And they get to see their heritage center there and learn about Honda's, overall business plan. And then we went to Nestle and they learned about how Nestle, again, develops and markets their products differently in different countries. They have a very global workforce right there in Marysville. They had a lot of different speakers from different countries that live and work here in Marysville for the company, but they're international, they live elsewhere. And there were several employees there that are from Columbus, but have relocated to other countries for Nestle and work abroad, as part of their job. And then we've had several field trips where we just have gone to Franklin University, was a host of ours for several years, and they would bring in people that live in Columbus that are from other countries that have moved here, and they talk about their jobs. We've had people that are from Columbus but have international careers speak about their jobs and their experiences. So it's been a lot of good speakers. They do simulation activities with the students. So for example, they did a simulation if they were migrating, fleeing a country to come to America, for example, and they had them simulate, what would you take? And then they give them different perils that kind of pop up along the way. And okay, now you have to get rid of this, or now this happened, what are you going to do? And they have to work in groups to decide, okay, well, we're going to have to leave this. Okay, well, now we're going to have to carry you, and different things to kind of simulate. And they do different simulation things like that. So it's a really good way for them to just think about our world in a different way, think about other people, think about other cultures, and learn a lot about careers, which being a business teacher, I like that part especially.
Right. I think, so we have one question in the back from Elizabeth, and then maybe I think you're ready to move into student presentation. So we'll do Elizabeth, your question, and get moving into those.
I was just wondering, are there any prerequisites or requirements in this program? Do you have to have a certain GPA or anything?
There is not. I just require the students to fill out a short application, mostly just to find out why they're interested in the program, and if they truly are interested and actually understand the program a little bit, not just, ooh, this sounds cool, I'm gonna do it. I want to know that they have a vested interest. And then I do require them to give me 3 teacher recommendations so that I can kind of see, the overall work ethic, because it does require some, motivation and work ethic to get through the program. But otherwise, yeah, it's open to anyone. Okay. Grab yours. If you start. I can come to your van. That was, am I dating myself? Okay, all right, so my name is LaShanti Berry, nice to meet you all. I'm just gonna start off with why I personally decided to join Global Scholars real quick. One, I did see from middle school, my parents did get an email about it and they were notified through, for a different teacher. And they came to me and insisted that like, just listen. It's not force, it's not force.
A strong arm twist.
They just insisted that like this could really benefit in a lot of ways, which me myself did I did read and understand how it could help me in the future, and it has. So I did a documentary because I didn't want to be boring. So I decided to switch it up, and over the course of time in the summer, I was already helping out my church. We had a thing where we would give out food to the homeless people around in the local areas. They also had 2 trucks with stores inside, and in each side of each truck, there were clothes they could pick from, shoes, propane tanks, flashlights, tents, sleeping bags, anything that they needed whatsoever, they were able to get. I decided to say that homelessness is a very big issue within society today because of, the social problem with a variety of underlying economic and social factors, such as poverty, lack of affordable housing, mental and physical health problems, addictions, and community and family breakdowns. And then the global effects of homelessness are large. They range from health issues to personal entrapment. This is believed that many homeless individuals fail in their lives to cope with their difficulties, and this makes them alienate themselves from the rest of the world. This is common with a lot of people, and this problem, I just want to say that overall homelessness isn't just stereotyped. It should never be stereotyped. Anybody could become homeless, today, tomorrow, anyone. It just depends on what trials and tribulations that you deal with within your life, and the personal issues that you go through, and whether you can overcome those issues or you can't. And the people that can't overcome those issues now, that doesn't mean in the future they will not be able to, or even tomorrow they may not be able to. It's just step by step. They can do what's best for them and just make things better. And this program really does help so many people. I just want to tell this personal story. There was a homeless man who had the warrant out for his arrest. He was just not doing good at all. I've seen him there about 4 or 5 times out of the 20 times that I've done this, because again, I've done this in the summertime as well. And then one day I just remember him going up to the lady. He just gave her his card, his credit card. And he's just could you just hold this for me? I can't do this. I really need help with this and that. He explained his personal situation to her. So she held on to the card for him over the whole entire summer and was able to get him free housing. So with him making money and having it on that card, he ended up with $5,000 on the card. Then from free housing, he was able to live there. So then groceries, water, everything was included for him. So that $5,000 he got to have for clothes or anything extra that he truly needed for himself. And just seeing that this program can inspire a lot of people is just inspiring me to keep giving and keep helping out. So yeah, basically what I did is created a documentary. On the website, you're able to find the documentary. It's www.beblessed. This is the truck, but it's the sign that they have, the picture that they have to promote the organization. And it is called Be Blessed Too. So you made a documentary Yes. to explain the program to everyone and basically just inspire the community. It also just shows personal stories. There are 2 people who tell personal stories on there. It showcases all the things that they provide in the trucks, a close lookup. It provides the organizers
words on how she got involved with starting this organization and how she started off from just her 2 daughters to 20, 30 people each time, different 20, 30 people coming each time. Because again, anybody's welcome to come and help out. It's not a certain group that goes every single time. And
So do you feel your documentary had an impact to help this organization?
yes, I do. I posted this documentary on TikTok. It is a really famous app. But on TikTok, I received 1,000 views, and then I got over 500 likes and then 50 comments. And I didn't put the data on here, but I put that on the slideshow that I turned in.
What was the name of the website again?
www.beblessed2.
Like the number 2?
Like, yeah, it's like 2. Yes.
Like the letter B, blessed, and a number 2. Okay, it's what the organization is called. You'll be blessed too. You may begin.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm Alexa Diley. I did my Take Action project so Global Scholars likes to push to choose a topic that not many people do. So I'm very passionate about the problem of addiction. So I thought, how can I make this original and different? Well, COVID. So I chose to do how addiction had been impacted throughout COVID, especially with mental health issues and the isolation, depression, anxiety, and all those great things. I decided to make a podcast about it. So in my first episode of my podcast, I did 3 episodes. I interviewed Calissa Nicholson. She owns Seasons Life Counseling over on Beecher. She's awesome. She's so cool. She's a counselor and she's also my neighbor. Which was pretty convenient. But her and I had a really open and honest conversation about how addiction impacts our mental health and how mental health impacts addiction, and how just especially in young people, because as we've seen in the news, a lot of young people have been getting into stronger drugs like fentanyl and pills, and it's really, really devastating and extremely sad. So we talked about addiction and how that impacts mental health. And then in my second episode, I interviewed Mr. Steve Garland of the Hardy Center. The Hardy Center, if you don't already know, is an amazing resource in downtown Columbus for, I hate the word underprivileged, but underprivileged children who don't have the resources that they quite deserve. And they provide them with meals, a safe space, and also tutoring and just support overall. And he's really great. He talked to me about the drug problem that's already in the inner city, as well as how COVID has impacted that and how these kids are dealing with that. And we also discussed education inequity and how education inequity can also affect mental health and thus addiction. And in my last and final episode, I interviewed Officer Kyle Parrish of the Hannah Police Department, and he was so amazing. And I felt like that was also good for me because as I'm doing a podcast about drug addiction and substance abuse, in my mind, I had this bias that interviewing a police officer, it would be like, no, addiction is wrong and every addict deserves to be in jail. And he was not like that at all. He was so compassionate and empathetic and everything that I wanted my podcast to represent, of leading with empathy and compassion and not so much judgment against addicts and who an addict is and who abuses substances, because it can really be anyone, especially in a time like now. So yeah, this link up here, this scan goes to, I believe, Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
And this one down here is Spotify.
Do you have a little bit of your data there? Like
Oh yeah.
How many listens you have?
It's really small.
It's
It's really small.
It's a heavy topic, so it's probably not trending right now. But
Yeah.
We're gonna increase it.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm through episode 1 so far.
So my data down here just talks of listens that I've gotten. And to me, yes, getting it out there is important and having as many people as possible listen to it. But even if 5 people listen to it and they say, man, this like really impacted me and helped me change my perspective on who addicts are and why there needs to bridge the gap of first responders responding and not leading with empathy and getting frustrated with addicts and being like, why aren't you changing? You know, we're giving you these resources. Why aren't you changing? And not seeing addiction as a disease and addicts saying, well, I cannot change. This is never something that I wanted. This is never something that I would ever choose. So as long as I can help with that issue. And I chose this topic because my best friend, her sister sadly died of an overdose. So, and she left behind, he just turned 8 a few weeks ago. I think it was the day that we presented at Otterbein. It was his birthday. So that's why this topic is very, very near and dear to my heart. So yeah.
So my name is Cameron Garrison, and I focused on providing dental care for underserved communities. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this was because my mom's a dentist, and she's always talked about how people don't have enough money to pay for dental care or have dental insurance. And also I noticed that lots of children in the state of Ohio typically have lots of cavities and Ironmans, which are like a filling with a crown on top. So what I want to do is I wanted to tackle providing free dental care for underserved communities by holding a free dental clinic day. So this was the day was February 25th when I held this. It was the entire day where I had anyone without dental insurance or who haven't been to a dentist in a really long time to come out and actually get access to a dental cleaning and a screening by a trained hygienist or a dentist. And there are pictures, I don't know if you could see it on the live zoom in or not, but there are pictures of some of the patients that actually showed up. I mean, one of the patients that showed up, they haven't gone to a dentist in over 20 years. So this was their first time actually going to a dentist and getting their teeth cleaned in over 20 years, which is an extremely long time, simply because you're supposed to go twice every year. So they miss twice every year by 20. So that's 40 total appointments missed. So cleaning his teeth did take a long time, but I'd say it was worth it, actually having an impact. It was also the same guy that said he didn't know he was supposed to brush his teeth every day, mainly because he grew up in like a community housing unit and it wasn't the best living scenario as a child. And he told me that when they're like young kids, they never really built the habit of like brushing their teeth every day, simply because like their children, they don't care about flossing and brushing teeth. So that was part of the reason why I also went to elementary schools like Woodcrest Elementary, which is part of Columbus City School, and I presented to children. I did this in a way so that they wouldn't have to end up going to a free dental clinic. I kind of wanted to prevent more people from suffering from any future dental cavities or any problems with their teeth. So I did go to an elementary and present to a first grade class on how to properly brush your teeth and floss and to make sure that they would brush their teeth twice a day. I also gave them toothbrushes and toothpaste and floss and like a little goodie bag, which is like on the board, if you can see that from the back or not. And the kids, they loved it. Hopefully they don't waste all the toothpaste. Floss. Hopefully they actually use it every day. Yeah, so I thought it was an interesting project while I was doing it. It was a lot more work than I anticipated for. I think I really had a pretty big impact on lots of people with providing dental care, because I mean, in the state of Ohio, the #1 health problem is dental care and access to it. So I wanted to tackle this problem more directly and actually have a solution. So I decided to cover both areas of the spectrum of making sure people who suffer from this get treatment and to also prevent others from having to end up at like a dental clinic in the future. So if they just brush their teeth every day and floss, they don't have to end up at a clinic. That's pretty much the overall summary of it.
You had how many cases at clinic?
It was about 20 in total that actually came to the clinic and showed up and got their teeth cleaned. I mean, we had like time slots and we didn't, it was pretty much all day. It was enjoyable talking to them and kind of learning more about their past and like how just life happens. And I honestly would do it again. It was actually kind of fun. I mean, there is another organization called Make a Smile or Give a Smile, Give Kids a Smile, and there's like mission trips you could do down in Mexico. My mom, who's also a dentist, actually went down to Mexico before and did a mission trip to provide access to dental care for those underserved communities. So I kind of brought that back over here, and I mean, I wouldn't mind going down there and doing that, but it would be interesting. I think the dental care was really cool actually, though. I think it had a really good impact on the people, and a lot of them are really grateful simply because it's apparently dental insurance is like really hard to get, and not a lot of places offer it. So the fact that they could actually come in, get it done for free, not have to pay a whole lot out of pocket because it is expensive, was really beneficial to them in their life, and hopefully they can figure out some way to be more consistent with going to the dentist so they don't have to constantly hop from a free dental clinic to another free dental clinic. So that was my big action project.
Well, good evening, everybody. Some of you may know me, but I am Aaron Sophomore, a junior here at Gander Lincoln, and my global issue is education. I chose education because my dad, he really likes to teach me, ever since elementary school, math, science, history, everything. My dad's parents were also teachers, so I chose something that was very close to my heart and that's very important in my household. Having two parents that come from Ghana, education is really important to them. They were always trying to be top of their class. They were always trying to be the best. So growing up in that kind of community, that type of household, I know that pushing my academic excellence towards me was a very important thing, just to make my parents and my family proud. So that's why I went with education. So I called it the student tutoring program because I wanted to get rid of the aspect that you need to ask your teachers for help. So I wanted to see if students that were really acing in their classes academically can help students that were really struggling in those certain classes. So it's a student-to-student tutoring program that I made up. And I actually got this inspiration from the sports that I'm in. So football season, we've had a lot of people not play due to their academics. So I really wanted to make that change so that we can really have enough players for a season, because our coach told us that as of right now, if we were to start our season now, we wouldn't have enough for a full football team. And that really spoke to me in a way, because I know that I don't want to see my teammates out just because they don't have this grade in this class or this grade in that class. So that's why I came up with this program. Some of my teammates, Marcus and Darius, also came to my program, so I know that I needed to help them so we can all play together as teammates. So my target audience was the students at Gander Lincoln High School, freshman through senior, anyone that really just needed academic help. all of my flyers were, in the bathrooms, teachers' mailboxes, social media. I was publicizing anywhere and everywhere. And this is just a small list of people that came. I've had over 20 students come through my program, so it was a really good and impactful way to really show how some people really do care about kids' education here. So I would ask them before the session how they felt about that certain class that they were struggling in, and after the session, how they will feel after. So I got some pretty good results here as well. And I put up this flyer. I know it's kind of small to see, but it was during that last week before spring break, because I knew when we came back from spring break, there's gonna be a lot of state testing and everybody's gonna be stressed and worried and everything. And especially for the freshmen, them having kind of like a rough start to high school, I just wanted to let them know that I got them, I'm here for them and everything, and that they are safe and secure. So my Take Action Project was just based on helping students get better academically, and I really did see a change in that as I was going through the program, and that really affected me in a way, because I did think of becoming a teacher, but I really just feel like helping kids is the way to go. So I want to actually go into the medical field and become a pediatrician. So I know that in my future, helping kids is going to be there. So even me using my academic ability to help them, I just did what I have to do. So the impact of this Take Action Project was students' grades did improve in a positive way. So my friend Maz, he kind of was tired of this photo. It was a lot of work. So before he came to me, he told me that he had a 30% in Algebra 1. So I was really trying to see how I could really help him and impact him in a way. And I know that he wanted to do track. So I talked to our head coach, Coach Johnston. I talked to him and I said, if you can get your grades up and see what we got to do, then there could be a spot for you on the team, right? So he came in, we got through all the work and everything, determination, and I was kind of seeing that it wasn't really me doing all the work, it was kind of him putting the work in. So in a way, he was kind of teaching me that he had it in him the whole time. I feel like he just didn't want to put that in the classroom. So he went from that 30% to a 75% through this program. And I know that that 75 was enough for him to make the track team, which he did. So that was really good for him. He was really excited and full of joy when he told me that. So I knew that I was excited because he was going to be my teammate. So what I learned from this is that helping one another makes us stronger and better together, because once you see someone that is struggling or that is low, you know that if you can help them, you can really help anyone. So I feel like that's what we really need in this world, is that when you see someone that's down, make sure to pick it back up. And then you see another person, it just starts to spread, and then you just all feel good for real. So yeah, that's my Take Action Project.
Hi, my name is Maggie Spinney, and I'm presenting today my project called Visuality of Worship. Poverty, hunger, illness, mental health, and reproductive rights. Millions of people across the globe are struggling at the hands of seemingly unsolvable problems. And when your loved one and your family members are victims of these problems, you can't help but point the finger to the politicians and ask, why can't you make this go away? You have the means, the power, the money, but yet the problems we face in America and essentially across the globe are much deeper than what we perceive. The world, and America specifically, is struggling with the worst case of division, hate, and polarization. Usual radicalism is destroying our country as our opinions get more liberal and conservative to the point where no one can see eye to eye, much less make change. And in the process of my Global Scholars Project is something I had to realize myself. At first, I wanted to tackle the kind of problem of like pro-choice in our own community, especially Ohio, in a rather red state. It was something I felt particularly passionate about, but instead I realized that I'm only exacerbating the problem and I'm making it worse by not taking into account both sides of the issue and how some people can feel very strongly about pro-life and very strongly about pro-choice. But instead the problem was education about both sides and being able to respect both sides of the matter. So essentially what I did was I created an article that educated the viewer or the audience what it means to be pro-life and what it means to be pro-choice. This is not something that is regularly taught by your parents or your school. So most of the information we get is from social media or even your own parents' views. And when you're stuck in this echo chamber of your own views, it's hard to oftentimes see what other people are thinking and understand their perspective. And that's why we have such an issue of polarization in our own country, is because we're not able to understand the other side. And not only in my article did I include both sides of the issue in an unbiased manner, but I also included how to become an advocate for both pro-life and pro-choice. So whether that means helping your local church out and like mothers who are in need, if you're a pro-life advocate, or sending letters to your senators or legislators about issues that you feel really strongly about. It's something that we kind of need to understand is that no matter how much we talk about it and advocate for the other side, sometimes opinions can't be changed. And that's okay. And that's just how things are. And essentially what I wanted to do is create the conversation where both sides are not only acknowledged, but respected and valued, because the value of perspective is something that's not really taught in the classroom. And it's not really taught by your parents who kind of feed you their own political views. So essentially, my article was posted on the Lincoln Magazine's website and also their Instagram. It was like a few-page article. I got a lot of content reactions. So I had like over 700 accounts react to it. I got a few hundred likes or so. So what I was trying to do wasn't necessarily convert other people's opinions, because that would only make the issue worse. I wanted to, again, like push the value of perspectives in my own community, especially in like a rather liberal town or community. You can oftentimes hear your own voice by your friends or your teachers telling you the same things that you want to hear. Everyone wants to hear what their opinion is. So when they're challenged, when they're not challenged, nobody learns from it. So that's essentially like what I was trying to do, is challenge like other people's thoughts and opinions so that we can grow and learn from other people. But yeah, this was a very much a trial and error project, and this was something I had to learn along the way, because I realized that nothing can really get done if we aren't educated or respectful of both sides. Yeah, that's essentially the duality of abortion.
Excellent job. I mean, very impressed by all of you. Our world is in good hands with youth here in this room and the Global Scholars Program. So thank you for taking time out of your night to come here and share your projects with us. I can tell by everyone's reaction just how much you've moved everyone and how much we've learned from you. So thank you.
Incredible. Very good. Awesome.
What might you say to a ninth grader maybe thinking about doing this? How would you encourage them to? Because I know it was a lot of time and extra, probably deferring gratification. You know, there were things maybe you wanted to do with your friends that you couldn't do because you were doing this. What would you say to them?
yes, it is time, it is effort, it's a lot of communicating, and again, like what I said, like trial and error. But at the end of the day, like you're making like real impact and real change, and it's giving you an opportunity to like go out into the world and even like your own community and like your neighborhood to kind of like change other people's lives. And it's giving you like the incentives to do that. And I don't think anything else has given me that opportunity in a way that Global Scholars has. And not only like making change, but also like becoming more globally aware of like what is going on. And that's just so like, again, like so important to be like educated in such like world issues and everything. So we can become responsible adults. And, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's worth the time and effort because, and again, it's not like fruitless labor. It's something that's really creating an impact in your community.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'd also say realistically, as a freshman, global scholar, that term itself kind of scares me. So I just feel like breaking it down to them that you're doing more learning than you're having to do, you know, teaching or that you already have to know knowledge wise. You're doing more learning in this program. So I feel like expressing to them that you don't have to be a straight A 4.2 person to join this really gives them a self of comfortability and like just awareness, like, oh yeah, I can really make an impact by having, you know, an average grade point, or just you could just be an average person.
Having a passion, you get a passion or something, or it was something you guys found along the way.
Yeah.
You didn't necessarily come in with it. We worked on that.
Great answers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very powerful. Yeah.
I have a question. Wow, I love every project. Feel excited, inspired, really impressed, and like making a difference. And I'm just curious, like some of you touched on, and it's fine if you're gonna move on, but to other things and other projects. But some of you touched on collaborations, and I just wondered, did you have plans to continue, or, you know, is there like any ideas or thoughts in that regard, and in any way that the school can support that, or that maybe we already do? I don't know. I'm sorry. So I'm excited for the future. Wow, like really, really impressive and great work. And I love the team aspect.
I would say maybe Eric can talk to that, because yours really was in the school. And did you think about that? Like, how are you going to try and pass this on, keep this growing? I know you talked to Mr. Bates and Mrs. Williams that day. Maybe you can share a little bit.
For my plans on trying to leave my program behind for the school before I leave, I was trying to really do that because after my program, I've been getting a lot of feedback that they wanted it back. And in my head, I was like, I mean, this was only for.
All right.
I'm tired. It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it to see the impact that I've made onto my peers. So if there was a way to bring it back and make it bigger and better, probably even expand it to not only the high school, but to middle schools as well, possibly elementary schools, then there's definitely a way we can do this. It was really fun. It was really fun to do. And I like making that impact, especially on kids, especially my friends, my peers, everybody. I just really like to help.
Yeah, your teammates, other teams, that's really great. Passing it on 30% to 75%. Come on now.
It's a good result.
Yeah. But keeping your eligibility, that's good motivator. And then you talked about like a dental clinic another day, you know, eye care practice, you know, like, but dental work, absolutely so important. And I think that's exciting too.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy going to elementary schools and presenting because the kids were really cooperative and they actually enjoyed having me there. And they actually enjoyed listening to what I was saying. Because I mean, we even brought in like these big toothbrushes and big like fake teeth for them to play. I like that. I'm sure. Great. I enjoyed the like whole presentation. organization aspect of it a lot. I like the dental care day. I mean, I didn't do a whole lot. It was more the dentist. You probably don't want me cleaning your teeth. I'll probably tell you to brush your teeth and floss. That's probably what best I could do. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I wouldn't mind continuing doing it in the future. I kind of was thinking about going down to Mexico. Maybe, I don't know.
You know what, the practitioners at the office I work at, they go to other countries every year and provide free eye care and supplies, and their families go. It's a great thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
It's a
doing
great
it,
thing.
but I don't know if I'm going to Mexico.
Understandable.
Anything's possible. And then we got a podcast and possible networking with other churches, like so many options make such a difference. Documentaries.
Did you say am I remembering right that you're in Mosaic as well? So were you able to integrate I don't know if there was any integration at all that you were able to do, or
integration
between the programs. So
Maybe share with everyone here what Mosaic is. Too.
Yeah, so Mosaic is it's a program for juniors and seniors across Columbus, and it's basically an experiential learning program that's kind of humanities focused. So what we do is instead of having like tests or like a lot of homework or something like that, we do like project-based curriculum in which it's more like, I would say, like real life stuff that we need to learn. It's definitely changed my education in a way like where I genuinely like really look forward like to school and to learning, and it's made me really realize like the joy of learning, and I felt like I've never had that before Mosaic, because it just gives us an opportunity to again like go out into the community and like learn with our eyes instead of just like writing stuff down and doing like fruitless work. But yeah, so like we have like again like this was inspired off of like our Perspectives project. Our Perspectives project was like the first thing that we did this year, and it was like essentially the same thing, and how we're like learning to understand other people's perspective and like value them in such a pluralistic world. Like there's so many different ways to kind of see things, and that we kind of have to understand in order to like cooperate as like a society. So like we've done a lot of different like really cool things, but yeah, I did this with like Mosaic. Like I worked a lot with my teachers. I like presented to like some of my classmates in there too. So, and I like sent out the article to like a group chat, so they got to read that too. But yeah, I just like it was like essentially like Mosaic inspired.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. And then I'll open it up. Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry to all the other committees, but this presentation like this or why SLA is the best committee.
It is, for sure.
It really is.
Sure.
You guys give me so much hope for the future. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just want to cry right now. I'm so happy that you guys are going out to the world. I hope you continue to do and be who you are. I mean, it's really great.
Agreed.
Well said.
Well said.
Well said.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
How can I've never heard of Mosaic before. That sounds really extremely interesting to me. So how can I learn more? I don't have a high schooler yet. I will next year.
Yeah. So it's not open until like you're like a junior. So like as a sophomore, you would apply in like March or April. But I believe the counselor at Gehanna is Miss Monig.
Oh,
I believe, but I might be wrong because they just changed the counselor. But if you kind of like go to the counselor and like talk to them about it, you also get like capstone credits, which is like really helpful. Hannah doesn't really do that, but oh well, but
maybe we should look into it.
Good answer. But yeah, we do capstone. It's also a government credit and then like an English credit. So like it's the bottom half of your afternoon for your first year. But yeah, if you just like talk to like your guidance counselor and like make sure your kid's like interested in it, because if they're not like extremely interested, it makes it like kind of difficult because it's still like a lot of work, but it's like work in a way that which you enjoy. You're learning a lot more, but yeah, definitely the counselors will help you with that.
Other questions? Thank you all so much. To stay for our next agenda item, but we will not be insulted.
But we will see you all.
Yeah, that's asking a lot.
You just put your camera up. Pops.
I know, but it happens. So
got it.
I was gonna write it down. Old fashioned way.
The way that works, right?
Girls can send it to you.
That's fine. She can. I'll let her.
You want me to?
Yeah, you can. I'm not proud about that. Deprivation and isolation.
Bye, Miss.
Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Every single.
Elizabeth, that was a gentleman I was telling you about, the tutoring.
If you need to help get that tutoring in place, let us know, because that's an amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Agree.
I did have 2 questions. Like, how much time in addition, like, I know it's obviously time out of school, but like, rough estimate of how much time they spend? A lot.
It's
I have to say, can I just do a throw out though, real quick, to Officer Parrish? He was amazing. Because I listened to all of her podcasts when she was doing the interviewing, and he was amazing. He actually said, if you do listen to the podcast,
You don't have to.
they're quite
No, we're all adding you right now, actually.
I
already started it.
Share. I'm not biased. But he actually says on there that he doesn't just say, oh, here's a resource for you. He actually says, I'll put you in contact with an individual. So, I mean, to have somebody like that, to put somebody who's struggling in contact with somebody who can actually help you is amazing, because there's a lot of stigma around police officers. And to have that, I think that was good for Lexi. And I think it was great to hear that. Calista was amazing, and so was Steve. He was amazing. So it was great for me too. I mean, it was amazing for me to hear it, and just, but it is a lot of work. But I would say that Lexi said, you know, it was worth it for the whole time. And with COVID, even with COVID, I don't think it took away. If nothing else, it gave her the tools and resources that she was able to work around it. Because she's going to have to do that, you know, in a couple of years. So, I mean, it just makes them more resilient. But it is a great program. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it's awesome that Gehanna offers it. And we were lucky enough because we were a parent, but we were able to go to the graduation and see all the other kids that were not here tonight. They have amazing programs. There was a girl that did an art program for kids that have development issues here at Gehanna. And I wanted her to come tonight because I wanted her to present to the board.
It was amazing.
Because I-
Madison.
Most of us said.
Did all
So
of us
if maybe she can even get in
Most of
contact
us
with the
got to
board.
see her.
She has
Yeah,
an
most of us
inclusion
were able to
program.
see her at
Yeah,
the
it was
fair.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
It
I mean,
was.
just, it really is amazing. So that's, I'm done talking because Lexi will yell at me after. I'm done talking.
You were proud and you
That's
should
great.
be.
Congrats.
Yeah, yeah, but it's well worth it. So we forced her, because she didn't know what it was, because she was in 8th grade, but.
I got a letter in 9th grade math class, and it was like, you're accepted into this, and I was like, what? No, I'm not. It's awesome for me. Why? I was like, no, I
I know you said you get half a credit at the end of the third. Is there something, I mean, I know, I'm not saying that's not enough, but like for the amount of work, do you get anything extra on your?
You get the
Global Scholars Diploma.
Yeah.
You get your diploma and your cord.
Okay.
And I can't speak for everyone, but during my graduation, I will be there.
Yeah.
And we're proud of you.
for scholarships.
Right, yeah.
And it's a great, I bet you wrote a college essay on it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and a t-shirt.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely.
It's a great topic.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
Well, the last item on our agenda is to review the updates to the resolution that we talked about on Tuesday night. So Bernal will hand it over to you.
So, board members should have still the Google Doc.
Oh, board.
Do you want me to resend the link?
I'm good.
I can resend the link. The only changes that, that I made were the ones that we talked about, and one of them I actually am still totally stuck on. The one, I know that ultimately there was some discussion about the language in paragraph 4. I think we decided to not make changes, but I am offering an alternative writing of that 4th paragraph in case we like that language better. Somebody tell me if you need the link, because I can.
I'm looking for it. I'm
resend
looking for it.
it.
I'm looking for it.
Oh, I found it.
April 20th.
I'll get it on my phone.
No, it's fine. I got it. I got it right here.
So I could just read, so we can.
Yep, I found it. I just gotta scroll back.
We
far
can,
enough.
share. Yeah. You have it, don't you? Do you not?
I shared it last night with a PDF. I don't know if you're using the same.
I don't have that streaming
I can do it
right now because no one else has clear.
Oh, okay.
So the reason why I brought the video down is so it wasn't just like
Was it
repeating their
distracting
image
behind
over and over. I wanted us to just see them, but.
I can't find any attachment.
Okay.
Because when, are you in the,
You're not.
So now that we have that, I can move it up here. I didn't want to distract him.
Clearly mine is.
So.
My big head.
You'll wanna.
I like you in your glasses.
Let's see.
You need to mute.
Okay.
Technology is a lovely thing.
Well, which one is it?
So you would just click on, see where your picture is, those
Yeah.
3 little ellipses right there.
Yeah.
So we want to actually share it. And we'll just-
So it's up there right now.
And let me do something really quickly.
Got it. You can't see my edits.
I can't
I
see the
realized you
edits.
can't because you do not have edit access to the documents.
It's okay.
Because you can,
Yeah, we have to
so
revise.
sunshine law
I'm trying to
prevents just like.
Teachers don't have those problems. Sorry.
Thank you, Joe. Is he muted?
Yes, but we are not, so now whenever you talk, it will go
Okay.
live in yours.
So if, I don't know, I'll read it, the 4th paragraph. So the 4th paragraph, there was a question about this last part of this sentence, the phrase local control. And I know that I explained that the reason that the way it was written that way is because that is a term of art, basically. I mean, it is what it is.
In the bill.
No,
Oh,
just
so-
in
General.
general
Yeah,
parlance,
right.
that's
Got it.
what the term is local control. But I have an alternative, and either way, I think is fine. So the alternative suggestion is, I'll read it out loud in case you can't see it. It says, whereas all 3 bills represent an unprecedented intrusion into the ability of local communities through locally elected school boards to determine and regulate curriculum and instruction. The way it was written before was, whereas all 3 bills represent an unprecedented regulation of curriculum and instruction and intrusion into local control. So I don't know if there's a preference. I think either way it's written, it's making the same point, but
I think local control is more streamlined. I'm the one who brought up the local control just because I didn't want people to misinterpret what the meaning was of we were wanting power, because that's not the case. But I like it. It's more streamlined and less wordy. That's the English communications person.
I mean, it can be tinkered with more if.
I think the new version explains it a little bit.
It does.
So whereas I think we sometimes get criticized for being very succinct, sometimes explanations are helpful. You know, I mean, that's the way I would look at it. I mean, it says in essence the same thing, right?
It's just explaining.
Yes, which I think is a good thing, personally.
Okay, so I'm going to, as soon as I accept these changes, I think then you'll be able to see it.
Yes.
On your own version.
Right.
Oh, so the change. Yeah.
You see it on your version now? Yeah. Cool. There's an extra F in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. And space. There.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, the other change that we talked about, I'm gonna be honest, I am still really stuck on, and I think that I'm stuck because, from where I'm sitting, so the last change that we talked about was something that Dion had requested, adding an extra paragraph after the paragraph that is, whereas the language contained in these bills would jeopardize the ability of the Gahanna Jefferson School District to ensure all students feel a sense of belonging and build an egalitarian culture. that embraces differences and promotes a safe environment in which all students and educators can be their authentic selves.
Right there, Steve.
And then we talked about adding another paragraph after that. And so I have the first part of that sentence, and the suggested language that I have is, whereas the language contained in these bills presents an existential threat to marginalized groups of students and staff, including. So I think that I am stuck because this entire paragraph feels like too much for me. I'm not sure that I can put it into words. And if somebody else wants to try to do that, I think that's fine. I'm not sure that what the emotion and the thought that is trying to be represented in that paragraph, I'm quite honestly not sure if there are words possible to capture it. That's where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'm going to say one other thing. So I had the privilege of spending the day today at an event, and I'm happy to pass this around, but the Ohio State, I'm an attorney. I'm a member of the Ohio State Bar Association, and I'm also a member of the Ohio State Bar Foundation, which is the charitable arm of the Ohio State Bar Association. The Ohio State Bar Foundation has a group of fellows every year. Call it a fellows class. I was class of 2018. And every year the fellows, they participate in educational activities. They participate in pro bono work. The work that we did the year that I was a fellow, a lot of it was related to helping immigrants complete paperwork to become, to be able to have access to all of the things that they should get access to. And then every year the fellows class picks a capstone project. And the program that I went to today was the capstone project of the class of 2021. And it was at the State House today. It's called the Unity Summit. I'll pass the program around. It was an incredibly moving program. And one of the reasons that it was so moving to me was, number one, it was held in the State House. Number two, it included people from across the political spectrum. So, and I should say the focus of the program was on inclusion and unity and on LGBTQ plus communities, talking about language and legal issues that impact the community. One of the panelists was Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor of the Ohio Supreme Court, who is a Republican, and she participated in a panel discussion about some of the legal climate issues related to the community. And being together in the State House, having that open dialogue with groups with individuals from across the political spectrum, all united around the idea of making sure that every single one of us has the ability to be their authentic selves and be able to participate in the fullness of what this country is about. This is why I'm struggling to write this paragraph, because I do feel like I don't know, I personally am not able to reduce it to words. So I apologize for taking you through the journey of my emotions from today. It was really moving. At the end, there was a spoken word, I don't even know what to, performance that moved me to tears. It was so powerful. But I can't do it. So if somebody else wants to try to do that, I'm open, or I'm also open to leaving the resolution as it is without the paragraph. I don't know what to do with it
That's
though.
honest. This is so much, and this is so great as is, and I've loved it from the first minute that I read it. And you know that, you've heard of my feelings about it. And for me, I feel like that many of us want to hear people say the words or the letters. And when we hear speeches, especially political speeches or any kind of action, it could be talked about and it could be talked around about. And I'm not saying that you did that for a second. I'm just saying, like, we want to hear politicians and leaders say LGBTQ, specifically Q+, and that's what we wait for. And that's been the moments that we've felt like people are going to take action and address it. And so that's why I brought that up. It's important, and it means a lot to people who have been pushed to the sides of the back and pushed down and hurt and killed. And so, not to be dramatic, but
It's not
you know,
dramatic. It's
like
true.
people
It's
say
real.
a lot of things, but naming it is really important and meaningful and significant in that way. So I'm not, and I felt like a lot of the conversation was geared towards when it really is many more groups and many more people than just one group. And, you know, it's so important, and this means so much. I can't even tell you. I think it's just monumental what you've done. And I can't ever thank you enough. And I can see, I couldn't either. I mean, I love to write, and I wanted to work with a family member because we do a lot of that together too. And I know I couldn't do it either. And, you know, I'm fried and tired, and but you don't need to hear it. But so I'm good either way, honestly, and you know that already. And so I want to say that, and so we'll see between now and Saturday. And I can't thank you enough. It's so monumental already. And I know that there are other versions, so I could show you.
So I know what we talked about doing is voting on it on Saturday. I suppose that still leaves more time if somebody wants to make an attempt at this.
Well, and
paragraph.
also we're getting input from other people, and we've had input from other people, community members. And so, yeah, we're just like always, we're gonna take everyone's input all the way until the 9th hour. Saturday.
I can work on it tomorrow and then.
You're our
bring it-
communications
yeah,
person.
And then bring it Saturday.
I was kind of giving you that gentle nudge.
I felt it
and
too. I felt
miscommunication.
it. I didn't want to jump over Dion because I know that you were passionate about those words, but that what you said will help me, and I can work on it tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Yeah, let's all, or not all of us.
We trust you. Communications person that she is.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone while we're all talking, just for everything people shared and that night. And that's all I've thought about ever since then, and talked with other people and heard from other people. And it's just so amazing and wonderful. I'm so proud of our district. So thank you everyone for showing up and continuing to be supportive and inclusive and dialoguing across the board.
Right, within sunshine law.
So I can give it to one of you.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see your.
Explain to me why you're the only one who can work on this?
Yep, so we can have two of us work on it.
Okay.
We can't have more than two of us work on it because we can't have dialogue unless we're in a meeting.
Okay.
And
that means through email, text, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And apparently document sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, like document sharing.
I can give access to one.
One other person on the board.
Yeah.
They have view access, just.
Right.
Yeah.
We can't all edit the same time. Sunshine law. Is that?
Unless we were doing it here together. We could edit together
Okay.
in a meeting, but we couldn't edit together outside of the meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry, Gina, I couldn't see her.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right, any other discussion? All right, well, it is, oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a question about a small portion of one of the bills, which is 616. I sort of said it the other night, but that one's very specific. Like, I understand like the language of the rest of the bills is very broad, but that one specifically says in K-3, you can't talk about gender, or you can't talk about it. You can't have lessons on gender identity and sexual orientation, but nowhere does it say that you can't have a casual conversation and say, that some kids might have two moms or two dads, and that's fine. Just accept everybody, that their families are different. But it just says you can't have a lesson on it. So is there any way we can just call out that section, because I think that makes a lot of parents uneasy. Like, we don't want that to be taught to our kids, until we kind of cover that with them.
Right. Some of the feedback I've heard around that, and Lisa, thank you first of all for bringing that up, is define lesson, because some people will say if you start to have a conversation where you're explaining about two moms, some people call that a lesson. And so that's where the bill becomes so vague on defining what that lesson is. So I hear what you're saying, but that's where some people are concerned that people could call that a lesson.
I think for me, that would be like, I don't want to, that's like one. The concern would be it being included in the curriculum. So like open conversations, dialogue, people sharing their personal experiences. I feel like, this is just from my own personal point of view, what I have experienced in Indiana. I'm okay with all of that, but to be part of your lesson plan, I think that's where some parents are like, we don't feel like it's appropriate for, K-3 to.
So are you aware of it being part of any lesson plan?
No, that we're saying we don't, we're saying that, we like that it's not part of it. So I'm not saying
We
it
don't
is.
have this bill in place now, though.
Right, I think what we're saying is we would like it to protect it to stay that way.
Right.
Stay that way.
So
Does that make sense?
that makes sense. And so I guess my suggestion, if that's how you feel, then that feedback needs to be given to the legislators so that they write legislation that is not so vague.
Yeah, right. I'm not
So-
disagreeing with you.
Yeah, so by you doing what you're doing, are you saying that you feel that it's okay to teach kids this?
Nobody's saying that.
Okay, but that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
because
no.
That's how it's coming across to me. If you're going against these bills, are you going against everything that's in them? Are you reading the bills? And when you guys come back at us with, well, are we doing it now? Okay, we're not gonna wait till you start doing it to start telling you we don't want it.
So
This
Amy,
is
were
what
you
you don't
here on
understand.
Tuesday night? I don't remember if you were here on Tuesday night or
No,
not.
but I sent an email to all of you.
Yeah,
with my
so
reviews.
I
had another function to get to, but
Yeah,
grandchild.
No. I'm simply asking the question because we did have a lot of dialogue around what was actually in the legislation and talked about the
Right,
fact.
but I'm asking you a question.
The answer to your question is
Right,
no.
okay, then why would you oppose that part? Just that.
So that's what I'm saying. We had a discussion about.
Okay, but I'm asking you, I don't know what you're including in all this. I'm asking you, if you don't agree with that, then why would you not take it out of your resolution?
The resolution is a resolution in opposition to the legislation. The legislation
Right, that's part of it, I understand.
is
I'm not
too
stupid.
vague, is what we're saying.
That part's not.
That
vague.
part's not
That
vague.
part's That's pretty black and white.
No, it is vague because the way that it is written, it is unclear whether or not answering a question or having books available for children to be able to read. It is unclear the way that that legislation is written,
So how are
whether
you
or
in
not those
opposition?
things are prohibited.
How are you in opposition to it if you don't know exactly what they're saying?
We're in opposition to the vagueness.
Right.
Because it sends a chilling
If you don't know
effect.
what it is, how are you in opposition? Why even do this if it's vague?
Because if the legislation passes, our teachers could be punished for things that we're not in opposition to.
And how would this resolution change that?
The resolution doesn't change anything. It's our communication to the legislators that we don't think that the legislation is well written.
And are you, I mean, I guess I haven't read your changes or whatever, but are you stating that that's what your issue is?
Yes.
I can't read this.
Yes.
Okay,
So we
I'm
had
asking
paper,
you.
I don't have paper copies
Right.
tonight, I don't think. I was gonna get up and look, but we did pass out paper copies of the draft. That's what the resolution says.
Okay, and you're specifically saying that you feel like it's not that you don't agree with it, you are telling them that you just think it's too vague.
We're saying that the reason we disagree with the legislation is that it is too vague
That's
and
what I just
overbroad.
asked.
Yes,
If that's what you're
correct.
specifically saying.
Yes.
And I do have to say one other thing, and I'm sorry if this is off comment. But I did listen to one of the teachers that spoke the other night. And I'm going to tell you two things, and I've tried to tell you this in your email. First of all, the political stuff should stay out of the classroom. And sexual orientation of why do students need to know? I mean, I'd like to know why a student needs to know anything about your sexual orientation. I mean, seriously, I've gone to school, my children have gone to school, they didn't know, I never knew what any of my teachers did after school or what their personal lives were all about.
Did they know that you were married to a man?
It doesn't matter. Why does that need to come into the class
Did
topic?
they know that you were married to a man? Did
Explain
your
to me
children
what
know that
what
your
the-
teachers
what
were?
difference does that matter?
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, but the thing of it is,
Did
as
you
far
print-
as far as talking to children in the classroom about your political views, which does not belong in there, and talking about your sexual orientation does not belong in the classroom, period.
I know back in my classroom days, I had pictures on my desk of my family and it included my husband. What
Okay,
would,
it doesn't matter.
so if a man has a husband, is he allowed to have his family
I
picture on
didn't
his
say
desk?
that. Why would you come out in a classroom and tell the kids that you're gay?
But,
First of all.
but that photo would be communication.
called-
So if the
Photos
kids ask
similar.
you, yeah.
It's called the First Amendment, and it's called a lived
Teaching it to
experience of a
children?
teacher, and it's
Teaching
called.
it to
What is it?
children?
He's not teaching
Yeah.
anything. He's just
You
saying.
can
to
just
me-
say whatever you
want to the
kids in your class.
Yeah, you can
Say
say
whatever
All right,
you
all right.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's get this
I mean,
off.
I know I'm on the board, but I mean, those students talked so nice, so respectful. I feel like I come to these meetings and they get so heated. And it's like, it's a matter of like, I'm just saying, if we're gonna talk in angry voices, it's hard not to respond back in angry voices from either side that you're on.
I
I
agree.
mean, I'll get emotional about it.
I
We
agree.
all
But
want
we're not
what's
gonna
best for our
answer it.
I
children,
agree.
but
I agree.
getting heated and yelling at each other is never gonna solve anything.
Who's getting
So
heated?
I
I
can
mean,
say
your
something
voice,
to that.
your
It's not
voice.
angry.
I'm just saying, it's gonna go back
All right,
and forth.
I asked
Someone
you
has to
a
stand up and say,
question.
enough of the heated
I
conversation.
agree.
You can have a
It works both
dialogue.
ways. It
I'm
works both ways.
I understand that, Steve, but what I tell my children is someone, if my children are arguing, one of them has to stop it, otherwise it's just gonna continue on and on. I'm sorry,
I know. I get
it's
it.
very hard when you come to these meetings.
But it also feels like you guys are not listening.
You're not,
to
right, you don't
both
feel like you're
sides.
being
We're
heard.
listening, we just don't agree.
Okay,
We
so.
don't
who
agree.
do you
If
If we can disagree,
Yeah.
but why do we have to?
We pay your
feel like we're
salary.
Attacking each other.
You realize that
The-
both
the-
sides-
the point
You don't even
is-
live in Indiana. Everybody always nods their head and says, everybody should be heard. Everybody's opinion should be heard. We should respect everybody's views. But then when it comes down to it and we express our views, it's like, we don't want to hear it. We get aggression back at us. We get,
So that, and I understand what you're seeing, but what we are charged with is, we're charged with the entire district and making sure everybody feels
But
safe
you're not
within that.
representing the entire
Some people
district. You're not
don't.
listening.
But it is a state public school, so we are charged with making sure every student feels safe.
Yeah.
Right,
So
some people don't, some students don't.
right.
So here's what I would say in answer to your question, because I get where you're coming from and it's a valid question and I've been asked that question too. Dion, why would you tell me you're transgender? Like, I don't care. And I get that question all the time. I believe it's important to be out and open for who I am. To know us is to love us, it breaks down. And I get that people are afraid and protective of their kids. And like that it makes other, like hearing a teacher talk about that brings up stuff. So I get that. And what's the relation? Is it appropriate? I get all those questions. And I just want to be me and live my life and be open. And like, it's a part of my life, everyday life. It's part of my parenting. It's part of my interactions every single day, everywhere. And so teachers historically have been threatened to be fired for being out for who they are. And they are not able to talk about their family gatherings, holidays, weddings, funerals, hospital visitation, like all those things, and it matters. And when someone meets me, then they're like, oh, you know, like you're not this, 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 and this, and this. And like, we're cool. And so I think it's a decent question and I'm trying to answer it. And, you know, it's all right to have questions. And like, I loved every word out of his mouth, and he wasn't in a classroom preaching. He was at a meeting where we're talking about legislation and, you know, it's applicable.
But he said in his video, because I listened to it, that he came out to his classroom a year ago. My question is to you, why is this even a topic of conversation with the students? The students are children, because even if they're in high school, it just was not appropriate to, you know, why did this even come up?
It's part of everyday life. It's
Yeah,
everyday
I mean, do you talk
conversation,
about your
and people
family?
talk about their partners, their lives.
Don't talk about our
You don't say, like, you know, people that said to me, Dion, like, you're cool being trans. Like, I would never like think of you like that or see you like that. And that's like in the old days, people say it's okay to be gay or lesbian just as long as you don't flaunt it. But flaunting it was like walking down the street holding hands or giving your partner a kiss on the cheek. And it's like, no, like they're just like regular folks acting like regular folks, doing what regular folks is totally appropriate, but it's seen as not appropriate for like walking down the street. I remember walking down the street and we would let go of our hands because you're suddenly in the public's view and you don't know if you're going to be bashed or you don't want to offend people or upset them. Like, it's a horrible way to live. And he talked about that. He talked about like how you have to like
adults. You're talking about adults.
Exactly.
We're talking about kids, especially kindergarten, third grade, and we're talking about teaching about sexuality to kids, kindergarten through third grade. That's what we're talking about.
Jeannie,
So when that teacher was speaking, he could have been more clear about when he said, for the first time I stood in front of my class and said I was gay. I don't think he was announcing to his class, I'm gay. I think, well, we don't know what happened in that situation, but it did kind of sound like that, and that I wouldn't say was appropriate if someone asked him or whatever. So maybe it's just the way he said it, but also just because you guys don't. So I'm not a fan of this. I don't mind the factual part of it. The first whereas is up till maybe the fourth. I don't remember which one. The last ones, you can take those out and you will still be making the same point. But I don't think that don't listen to me just because you don't agree with me. I do think you listen, and I don't think that's all.
I think you have learned a lot from the little young lady that spoke at the end, because she did a project on both sides, and I feel like we have a very liberal school board, and none of you truly listen to us. You don't know where we're coming from. You don't ask where we're coming from in general. You just ask us to prove stuff. And the thing of it is first of all, when we're telling you stuff that we're seeing and hearing, and we're seeing pictures of, and we're seeing this and that, have any of you, do you ever take time to actually go in and really observe what is hanging up? Lisa told you what certain posters said. I know the words, and I can tell you, not one of those words that was on a poster was friendly. To me, they were all pretty, could be taken almost kind of encouraging negativity and whatnot.
Well, and some of the posters said love.
Excuse me?
Literally said love.
The posters, the pictures Lisa sent me, there were posters
She
that
gave
said the
me
word
the
love.
list of the words because you said you couldn't read them.
But some of the ones I could read
Well,
said
that's
love.
fine, but I'm talking,
So
see,
leave those.
this is an example.
I don't know the posters, but leave the good ones that say love, but that doesn't
exactly.
excuse the ones that say
Right, see,
something.
this is
I don't know
exactly
what
what
it
I'm
was,
talking
but.
about.
No, but I'm asking you questions to understand,
I
because
know,
you
and
said
I'm
all the
telling
posters
you.
were negative.
No, I did not. I said, you questioned the ones that you couldn't read, and she gave you a list of the words. I'm saying that this is what I'm saying, and you guys need to pay attention. This is what we get back. Is no, I didn't. There's a love poster up there. Great, but there were like 5 or 6 that were like, to me, yeah, we're negative.
You didn't see yourself in those posters, but I can
Absolutely
guarantee
not.
you that there are students in the
The
building who
negativity,
do.
what were some of the words?
Oh, dismantle
Well,
the patriarchy.
No, absolutely not.
You don't think there are students in our building who saw themselves in those posters?
To dismantle stuff?
You don't,
Why is that appropriate?
you don't think there are students in our building who see themselves in those posters? Is
To
that
see
what you're saying?
themselves dismantling and being destructive?
Do you know, did you look up the phrase
Dismantling is to
dismantle
take
the
apart stuff.
the patriarchy?
I
Is the rest
I'm
of
talking
the phrase.
about some of the other ones. That's not the only ones that were on there. And
I
even
just
some
want
of
to
the
make clear
books.
that the poster didn't just say dismantle, it
Oh
said,
my God.
right? It
That's
said,
just one word that I
So,
put
okay.
down the list. I'm just picking out one.
So you're gonna put up posters that affirm everybody? Everybody can have a poster up that affirms themselves. So are you gonna also put up Bible scriptures for people who see Bible scriptures and those affirm
I have
them?
no idea if they're, I haven't sent pictures of.
Well, you're
Bible
saying that,
scriptures.
well, if it affirms somebody, then it should be included.
You
So if you're gonna do that, then you have to do that for everybody, right?
So there is a policy related to what is allowed to be put up inside of classrooms, yeah.
And are all views, I don't know what the policy is.
All right, well,
So are all views allowed? I mean, I think that I literally in most things in my life try to see both sides. I really do, even though I do feel strongly on one side. But I think, and I apologize for getting emotional earlier, I just think, as a conservative Christian father, was a pastor, married an extremely conservative into an extremely conservative family. I mean, I have a transgender cousin. I have a cousin who's a lesbian. That doesn't mean I don't love them, but regardless of sex in general, like I told you on Tuesday night, my 6th graders read a book where the girls dressed like boys. I didn't opt them out of that. I'm not allowing them to know what goes on in the world and that people are different. Where it comes down to me is, regardless, I don't want my K-3 learning about sex, period. I mean, when they did the 5th grade video, I asked, can I watch the video before you show it to my 5th grader so that when they come home, then I can have that conversation. I just want to be able to have the conversation so I know they're learning so that at home we can then talk about it. And so, I mean, I think I said this the other day. I mean, I do care what gender you are, but I don't want to say I don't, but like that's you, this is me. I just know as a mom, I don't want any sex talked about.
Right.
K-3.
Right.
I don't care.
Right,
I
it's
mean,
not.
Right, I know it's not. I think I'm just trying to make sure it continues that way.
and Rebecca, I hear what you said about, we don't feel that that's a lesson if there's a conversation. And I understand that's how you feel. But
Right.
we don't know how others will interpret that.
I understand
And
that.
that's- yeah.
So I understand where you're wanting to come from for the resolution. Where I'm coming from is, I just want to make sure it stays that way. So anyways, like I said, I apologize for getting emotional earlier. It's just
You don't
sometimes,
have to apologize.
it's hard. I mean, I know that everyone in this room wants what's best for the children. We might not see eye to eye, and I know that the conversations are heated topics, but I don't feel like that we need to get heated over them. I think we can all have civil conversations and be able to listen to one another, because if you, I mean, I can feel my blood pressure. If you're in that state, you're not listening to the other people. You're thinking of, how can I come back and squash what they're saying? And that's not gonna get anyone anywhere. So anyway.
Oh, Lisa, one minute. I think Elizabeth had her hand up first.
I was just gonna say that, I agree, we all want what's best for the kids, and I think a lot of the concern from our side is we wanna make sure that we're focusing on academics, and we're seeing a lot of extra things slipping in, and we really send our kids to school for the basics, and some of these things are better handled at home. And I understand all kids don't have this at home, parents that are willing to talk to their kids. But with the lack of transparency that some of us feel, we are quite afraid that it's going to slip through the cracks and our kids are going to be exposed to things that we're not comfortable with. So we really need to repair the relationship and the transparency. And I really hope we can work together to do that. I really do, because someday I want to be able to proudly say I'm sending my kid to Guyana schools, and right now I just don't feel like I can do that. So I really hope we can work together.
Please, I just want to say one big thing. Skokie, Illinois is a really wealthy suburb in Chicago. It's in their curriculum, kindergarten, gender identity. So for us, we don't know that it's not coming. So we want to stay ahead of it, and like we want to be able to trust the district that you're not going to teach this to our kids or have it in the curriculum.
That's my whole point of you telling us what's not in there now. Well, that's great. But a lot of things probably weren't in here 5 or 10 years ago either that are in here now. That now we're awake and we're aware and we're watching. But we also want to feel like you're actually listening to us and taking in some of the things that we're suggesting, because I don't feel like that at all. And I'm a newbie here. I'm just a grandparent. I have a grandchild that's going to start in the fall. And trust me, if grandma feels like it's not good, she will not be coming here.
Well, I can tell you that, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but I listen. I see my board listening because we have discussion in these meetings. I listen, I read every email, I have conversations with people on the phone, I've met people for coffee. Just because we don't go in a direction that you agree with doesn't mean we're not listening, because there's a lot of opinions and perspectives in this district that we also have to listen to. And I know you called us a liberal board, but I heard from a lot of Republicans who also are for the resolution because they feel that it is vague. So it's not a political party resolution. I want people to feel they can be who they are. And I told Lisa, I want someone to be in a classroom and say, I love President Trump. I thought he was an amazing president, and that people respect their opinion. Like, I want that for everybody, but that's what this resolution is about too. Like, I want everyone to feel that they can share their opinion, share who they are, and they are not criticized. They're embraced and they're respected. And just like that student said, that you hear both sides. That is really what I feel the essence of this resolution is.
But the thing of it is we've had students that have come to meetings that we've had that have said, if you go to the conservative side and say anything, then that's held against that kid, and they're bullied and they're whatever. And I think that, I get that you guys want it to be this, but I don't think it's necessarily the atmosphere that you think it is. That's why I suggest spend more time. I know you all have jobs, but if I was on the school board, I would be making it a point to actually be going and visiting these schools. Because I'm hearing about, okay, so what do you do about all the fighting that I'm hearing that's going on? All the chaos that's in the bathrooms at the high school, the sex, the, what are they smoking? The vaping.
There's sex at the high school going on in the bathroom.
Some of the students have said that there's sexual behavior in the bathroom.
Amy, did you say that students have come to our board meetings and said that they were bullied for having
Not
conservative?
in these meetings, we've had
Oh.
other meetings.
At our board meeting?
No, we've had other meetings.
So when you're saying
I don't
your
understand,
meeting.
I don't understand what you were
Other
referring
parents.
to.
No, we've
I'm
heard,
asking,
we've heard from other
I'll give
students.
an
wait,
example. of
you're
my-
saying that we have heard?
No, they're saying that they've heard it at their meetings.
I'm
I
simply
know.
trying to understand.
I know.
what you're saying.
That's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to do that, but no.
I brought it up at the community engagement meeting, though, like, I know, so for like my daughter, and you can see it as an excuse, she has a learning disability, and she's a very smart kid, girl, and I'll probably cry again, because, you know, I'm a mom and I'm proud of her. But, you know, we've taught her the way to learn is to ask questions, and I know in 8th grade, in some of her classes, it's gracious, what is on me tonight? In some of her classes, she hasn't felt safe just asking questions out of fear of not being called, like thinking that she's stupid because of her learning disability, but out of like what they'll think why she's asking that, when really it is, she doesn't understand, if that makes sense. I mean, she doesn't, I mean, she wants to understand where her classmates who don't look like her or dress like her or have the same religion of her, she wants to understand where they're coming from, but she's afraid if she asks those questions, then she's going to be called names. And so she, I mean, again, this was part of the other reason why I raised my hand, and it's part of what Elizabeth said. I mean, we moved to a Gahanna for a reason. I mean, we could have, literally, we own our own business. We could have moved anywhere in the entire country, but we chose Ohio and chose Gahanna 15 years ago. And if I didn't love it, they wouldn't be going to school there, you know? But I think, and I don't want this to come off wrong, sometimes I feel like I realize that students spend a ton of time at school. I get that. And I was a teacher before, and you build relationships with your students and you feel like they're part of your family. But sometimes I feel like, and this is not a fault, but I think that the school system is trying to make up for things that maybe they shouldn't have to make up for, but they are, because it is, how do I put this? There's like parents, I mean, it's easy for, I realize it's easy for me to say, I'm a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. The Lord has blessed us financially enough that I don't have to work, so that I am able to be home. And thankfully, my children tell me everything. So I don't have to question what they're learning because they tell me. But I'm not blind to know that that's not the case for everyone. And so where I come from, it's not, I mean, I come to these board meetings for my children, but I realize that like, it's the same people that come to every board meeting. It's the same people that come to every PTA meeting. People are busy. And so I think that, you know, I'm not saying you guys aren't doing a good job, but sometimes I think some of the things that you're trying to do, you're doing that maybe schools didn't have to do, you know, decades ago because the parents weren't as busy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that there isn't a mental health thing. There is, I mean, I see it in my children, but I don't even know how to put that.
Case by
I
case.
feel like
It can't be a blanketing of the whole. So, like she said, I'm sending my kids to get an education, academics, sports, social, all that stuff, great. But there are some of these issues where there are two sides. When there's an issue where there are two sides, especially when you have people who have a more left-leaning view and people who have a more right-leaning view, leave those for home. And, you know, if kids are struggling, if kids have, you know, need mental health help, they need behavioral help, give them the specific help they need. But blanketing the district with social issues and race things and LGBT things, we're not sending our kids for that. We want the academics. I mean, the young man that came said that he had to tutor his friend who had a 30%. Why does he have to tutor his friend? Why didn't somebody from the district see that that kid knew that he wanted to play sports, he wasn't eligible? He has to set up a program for tutoring, peer-to-peer, so that his kids can get the help they need. I mean, how is that okay? And we're dealing with this. We're like, you know, I feel like
It's an
we're
extremely
losing the focus
complicated,
of academics. and
it's
education.
extremely complicated process, especially in high school. You don't know that teachers haven't asked him if he needed help. Part
I'm
of
not
it is
blaming
reaching.
teachers at all.
No, I'm
It's
just
not
saying,
teachers.
part of it is the fact that that resonated with him, having somebody that he was a friend with help him. Kids have very unique ways of dealing with things, and some of them don't like to ask questions, you know, in class because they're afraid of things. Some things don't want to ask teacher for help even though they know that they're failing, but a student can help them. What I thought was great about that is there's so many different ways that we all can help kids, and we have to be open to all of them and not look at it as a negative. I look at that as that's extremely positive,
I
and it
love
can
it.
happen all the way down into elementary school because somebody feels much more comfortable going to their friend to ask for help and they're afraid to ask somebody else. So we have to be encouraging for everyone. And our curriculum isn't left or right. It is curriculum. And I think that's what we have to continue to focus on.
I agree. I mean, I agree the core curriculum of academics shouldn't be left or right, but I feel like there are all these other issues that are coming into play now. And I think, you know, not that I agree with the wording of these bills, or the concern is that all these other things are starting to come into the district that it's dividing us. Our kids are here to be part of the Gehanna team and to get an education, and all these different things. It's like, that's what this bill was about, is divisive content. I mean, when you're dividing kids up in racial groups and you're saying you're underprivileged and let's do a privilege walk. Let's use the most, that kind of stuff is, it's
Are
divisive.
you aware of that
Or,
happening in schools?
I don't know if it's happening.
It's happening in others.
I've heard that, I mean, I know Gehanna schools have had equity training and all this. To me, the word equity used to mean how much value is left in your house. Now it's like, I don't know what it means. It means like, I keep hearing equitable, and to me, I like the word equality of opportunity. Diversity is great, but now all these new terms are coming in and we're like, what does all this mean? What are we doing? Social justice, and it's like, we just want our kids to get an education.
So one of the things that I agree with what you said, help the individual kid, I think you were saying, in terms of what they directly need. And not all kids would agree with the same thing, right? The reason I wanted to be a teacher is my mom was an alcoholic at 4th grade, and Mrs. Olson at LA Unified School District kept me after school and made sure I did my work every single day. Now, you might say that wasn't her job, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not sitting here today if it wasn't for Mrs. Olson. And so the point I'm trying to make is that teachers, and I think some of you in your conversation, Rebecca, you alluded to this, build relationships and connections, because the brain and emotions and cognition are inextricably linked. Look up an article on Harvard's website called Birds of a Feather. You don't just teach math, right? You teach kids that have some fears about different things with algebra, and you have to connect with them. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
But based on a person's worldview, that approach can be different. I might teach my kids from a biblical worldview, how they should be accepted, or how, you know, what's important for them to learn. And somebody else might come from a different worldview with what they teach. And so when you start delving into these things, you know, where people have different perspectives, different political leanings, it becomes very divisive.
And it can be very affirming for a kid who is afraid to come out and say that they're gay, to have a teacher in front of them talk about their journey, whether it's during, an off period or study hall. It should not, I agree with you, it should not interfere or disrupt or limit the curriculum. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is it's inextricably linked. Relationships and learning, we know more now about brain than ever. And the connections people make, and there's a study on Harvard's website called Birds of a Feather, when you discover affinities you have with children, you discover that, you can connect with them and motivate them to learn. Like that young man connected with his friend. That's what happened.
Right.
His friend connected with him emotionally, and that motivated him to learn. And I'm not saying that we don't have a responsibility to reach those kids that have 30% to do. We need to. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is, I don't think it can be taught in a vacuum. We are people teaching people. And we have to make human connections that are meaningful, that move us, that connect us, that build relationships. And, you know, it shouldn't be overboard where it replaces the actual teaching of math. So I think Mr. Wagner, standing up and reading what he read, affirmed certain students and empowered certain students within our district that may have felt empowered by what he said. And I think, just like what Mrs. Olson did for me, that is a connection. And we may not agree on that, but I think we do agree that the curriculum should be taught and not, we shouldn't, you know, favor these social things that you're talking about over and above everything else. But what I'm saying is they're inextricably linked. You can't separate the world at the classroom door. You know, right now in our society, right now, gun violence is up 30% in major cities. Car accidents are up 20%. You know, there is what's going on in the world right now is not separated from the schoolhouse door. It isn't.
Right.
And we're all.
What I'm saying is there's a lot of problems, and I'm not saying that the school can't help. What I'm saying is I think as a community, like we have to figure out how to actually help each other.
I agree.
And we can't, again, it's easy for me to say, but we can't just rely on the school to do it all. Like that's,
I agree.
To the core, that's not your job. Like, so I have always said, like, I just want my children to be good learners. And when you're talking about relationships, you know, I mean, I won't say people's names, but there are teachers that are retiring that my children have had that so I have 4 kids and 2 of my children have had them and 2 of them aren't. And it breaks my heart that they won't have that experience. And not so much because they learn so much academically, but we built a relationship with them. And one of them, you know, we're friends outside of JGPS, like we're friends in real life. And to get messages, you know, like I ran into your child in the hallway after something happened in their private, like the teacher's private life, and my child showed empathy and sympathy for them. And the teacher told me about it because, and I mean, it's not that I don't want my children to make A's, but I want them to be good people. And so I want them to have teachers who are good people. So yeah, I totally agree. You can't separate. I think we're all just concerned about, you know, what could, like I've said it like 4 times, what could be coming down the pipeline is what I think some people are concerned about.
And I respect that you are asking and worried about what could be coming down the pipeline. The reason we ask, like, where have you experienced in Gahanna Jefferson is because if you're experiencing it there, we want to know. Because if it shouldn't be there, then we want to look into it. And we're not aware of the things that you're calling out. That's why we're asking, are you seeing something that we're not?
And I think maybe the way that some people are interpreting it is that they're not taking it that way. Does that make sense? They're not seeing it as you asking a question. They're seeing it as like a defensive, like, does that make sense?
Reserve our right to teach these things. Like, it's like you're saying you want to reserve the right.
I feel like so much is lost in translation when you're typing. Right.
But I'm letting you know now that the question's being asked because we want to know where you've seen it. Because we're assuming that you have, and that's why you're bringing it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've said it a few times, like when you say our district is engaging in social justice work, okay, not everybody, number one, we don't know what that means. A person can say, wait a minute, you're using the schools and the kids to engage in political agendas. That is a little bit troubling and it could be kind of divisive. I would hope some of you could see how that could be perceived as divisive.
So I think asking that question, so what do you mean by social? And I think that's some of the questions that you've all asked is why they did the community conversation, to have the small group discussion so that we could get those definitions out. How are you defining it based on how we're defining it? And then the parent group that's going to be put together around that is going to work on these things. So it's looked upon as an inclusive way that we're working together, realizing that we've heard from people that not everyone is on the same page with definitions and process.
So that's, I mean, when you ask, where are you seeing it?
Yeah.
those
So,
kind of
so
things
one
are-
example that I did want to point out that I think, the presentations that we had today is an example of social justice work. When you're talking about advocating for free dental care for families that can't, or people who can't afford it, that advocacy is social justice work. When you're talking about, I think it was helping the homeless and helping your students, like that is social justice work. Those are the types of things that we're helping to instill in kids based on areas that they have determined to be their passions.
I guess it would be a little bit less
Polarizing.
if it were community service work.
Yeah.
Or charity work. Or
And
the
I think
terms
that's
that
the
we're used to
piece.
hearing.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece though that we have come back to. I remember in one of the meetings that we had earlier in the summer, it was a conversation around the definitions, right? And what has become politicized that shouldn't be. And so one of the things that we are also working towards within our equity work is the definition, so that everybody, with community input, everybody has a clear understanding of what we mean from a school's perspective when we say those terms. Because just because it's politicized or that's what people want it to be, that doesn't mean that is what it is, but we have to be very clear about what it means for us. And so that is work that we are working on and will continue to work through, again, with the community perspective included in that.
Transparency.
Yes.
I just wanted to say one other thing. Somebody brought up with teachers that nowadays it seems like teachers are looking to affirm everybody when what we would like to see is teachers inspiring kids to better and greater things rather than just seeing where they are and affirming them, but seeing them say, here's what we're ascribing, trying to, better themselves.
Can you affirm somebody, inspire somebody without affirming?
Right. Yes, you can. I think so.
I
Absolutely.
think
Yes,
the
you can
two-
inspire
I
somebody.
think the
without
two are connected. I don't think we disagree. We should
How are we
inspire.
gonna affirm every single person?
But I think when you
Are
inspire.
you gonna affirm Christian kids
Yes,
by
we do.
reading Bible
Yes,
scripture
we
to
do.
them at school?
They said
I mean, are you gonna, so I mean,
Well,
how are
You
you
don't
gonna
read Bible
affirm
scripture.
every?
No, but we do affirm Christian kids, like it's not, right, we don't do that, but we do affirm, like,
But a
the
student could bring their Bible and read it all day long if they wanted.
the goal is that every student, regardless of what your identity, your preference, your thought process, political party, family background, regardless of that, is that you come in and you have a sense of pride of self and then a sense of pride of others. That is the goal. And so what that means across the board, it means something different for everybody else. Cause like I'm listening to, and I'm thinking about my own experience coming through Gahanna, very different than some of my classmates' experience coming through Gahanna. But I know that, there were people who affirmed me, and that's the reason I'm here where I am right now. In different ways. And so, and again, it's when we are thinking about it from a school's perspective, each and every student that walks through that door, regardless of what it is that you have in your background, that you feel like this is the place for you, you have a voice, and that you're going to thrive here.
Yeah.
Everybody,
I agree with
including our
that. That
Christian
sounds
students.
great. I love that. I just, pointing out all these different identities and affirming all these different identities could be divisive in a way. I feel like just as a district, affirming them as a human being and as a part of Gahanna schools, as a part of our classroom family or
Affirm them for who they
to me,
are.
those are the
They are affirmed for who they are.
In
And
their
until
authentic
the-
self.
as a human being, but we don't need to go around, we're gonna affirm your gender identity, and now we're gonna affirm your, family situation, and we're gonna affirm this, and we're gonna affirm that. Why not just
We don't,
affirm
we
them as a
affirm
human
everything about
being?
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's not that, we're specifically pointing out things, but it's you coming in with whatever background you have You know, Mrs. Sullivan, if you're in my class, welcome, Mrs. Sullivan. I'm so glad you were here. You can be your authentic self and all that you need to be. And then welcome, Mr. Bear. Like, you know, it's like that. It's not that I know that you're a Black woman and I'm going to affirm you as a Black woman. It's not that piece.
I love that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. Like, but for example, at the other meeting, you added the part about the dress code, about students can dress according to their gender identity. And that becomes part of the board bylaws. And I'm like, but why? And Mr. Barrett, you said it was to affirm their identity. And I'm like, well, why are we doing that? Like, what? Why not just like, you know, the dress code is about covering your body and having public decency. I feel like things are being added that go outside of the realm of academics, education, affirming us as human beings and as teams.
Jeannie, I think you had a question or a comment.
One, I would love to see, we're way off topic here, but I would love to see more of those community conversations that we just had, because that was very useful and helpful. And two, the bottom line is the legislature does not need to be in our business.
Right.
So
right.
take out all that other stuff and send it on.
There's 125 laws right now
I know.
about education, educational.
It's just not where they belong.
Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get back on topic, which is, I did allow us to go off topic only because I saw there was a connection into the resolution and some of the things we were talking about, but we do try to stay on topic because that's what we shared with the community, and they may have chose to have been here if we were gonna go a different route. And that's why we try to stick to our agenda, just so you know for future, not trying to silence anyone, not trying to not be transparent, but that's why we have the agenda that we do. So with that said, it is 8:48. I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. I hope everyone has a wonderful night and drives safely getting home.
Thank you.
And happy birthday to Sue. Her birthday's tomorrow.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Don't come to a work.
I'll be in one all day on Saturday.
I was gonna say, there probably is
One day. One day.